19th, 1978. Give me your name.
Mathilda Elizabeth Zimmerman.
Zimmerman, that was your maiden name.
Yes. Now it's Weinzierl.
Weinzierl.
Has been for 71 years.
And the year you were born? When were you born?
April the 16th, 1884.
Oh. And Chesney?
No, in Clarence, New York.
Clarence, New York. And where is that?
15 miles east of Buffalo.
15 miles east of Buffalo. That near, that's in New York.
New York.
New York. So you didn't grow up in Chesney?
No. I was 18 years old when I came to Chesney.
So you had your education in New York?
New York.
And tell me about the school that you went to.
Well, there's Parker High. That, well, first it was a country school. Then when I finished 8th grade, I was transferred to the high school, and that was Parker High.
Oh.
And when I finished the high school, then I was transferred to the county normal school, and I finished that.
Was this a public school?
Yes, and by teaching so many years out of so many, you'd get a license. It was practically a license.
For teaching.
Uh-huh.
Was this a public school or religious school? Public school.
Yeah, I don't know why I brought that to religious school.
Well, so you came to Chesney when you were 18.
Yes.
You've seen a lot of changes in Chesney and having to...
Oh, yes.
When did you get married?
June 12th, 1906.
To George?
George.
George Weinzierl. Did he live in Chesney?
His people came here from Erie, Pennsylvania. And originally they came from Germany.
Oh.
And they lived in Erie, Pennsylvania first. And then they came to Michigan. And they had 7 children, all born here, except 2. They had 2 children that come from Pennsylvania.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
Huh?
Did you have brothers and sisters?
I? Well, yes, there was 10 of us all together. There was 4 boys and
6 girls?
6 girls.
6 girls.
That isn't right. There was 5 of each.
5 of each.
Oh.
Were you the oldest?
Oh, no, I was the youngest.
The youngest. So, where did you meet George?
Well, possibly at Leighton Corner.
Oh, at a dance up there.
Yes.
Was it love at first sight?
How?
Was it love at first sight?
I kind of think so, because I thought he was a pretty nice young farm boy. And, well, kind of grew into friendship and love. And after I had taught 4 years in Maple Grove Township, we were married.
How long after you met him did you get married?
Oh, a couple of years.
You had a nice courtship then.
Very nice. And he had a nice horse and buggy, which was
that meant everything in those days.
in those days.
It's like the Cadillac today.
Yes.
Were you teaching school when you met him
Yes.
at that time?
That the only excitement there was took place at Leighton Cornerstone. Dances mostly.
Where were you teaching school at that time?
In Maple Grove, it was called the Hebler School District. It was a mile and a half east of Leighton Corners.
How many students did you have?
How what?
How many students did you have?
School
How many students?
students. Oh, in the fall, when school started, there were just the little folks. After the farm work was finished in the fall, the boys came, big boys. And altogether there was about 30.
Altogether, you had each grade in the same room. It was a one-room school.
Altogether.
That was interesting to go to school in a one-room school, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you tell me something about the one-room school? How was it there? How was it?
Well, it was pretty cold. The morning, boy didn't tend to work very well. The oldest boy usually got the job for $1.50 to do the sweeping and build the fires in the morning.
Coal heater or wood?
How?
Was it a coal?
Oh no, wood.
Wood?
A big, it was a box stove. And that's a long, pieces of chunks of wood. And the woodhouse door opened out of the school room, and she didn't have very far to carry it to the stove. Well, and that one chunk was supposed to last overnight. But sometimes, the wood fire would go out, and that it would take almost noon before the schoolrooms was comfortable. They'd leave their coats on and to be comfortable. And sometimes the sweeping wasn't very good. It would be dusty, and everybody had to dust their own desk. And it got old.
That brings back memories. Did you have a pail of water sitting on the stove?
Yeah, there was a shelf there and a pail of water, drinking water, and a dipper. Everybody used a dipper, and when it gets low, they'd go to the neighboring farmhouse and to the well and get a fresh pail of water. And then they'd be in line with a dipper. Who's going to be first to get a drink?
You didn't have your own pump.
Oh no. And if they're thirsty, they're going to get their fresh pail of water often. And the teacher would sit down and no, that didn't do it. One pail of water was sufficient. And
How long did you teach there, Mrs. Weinzierl?
2 years, 2 full years. And
And then where did you go?
then I went to Leighton Corners. And in the second year there,
Was that a one-room schoolhouse also?
yes, And that school most of those schoolhouses, once in a while, you see where one of those old schoolhouses are made into a home. See, here in Leighton Corners, there's one. It's been finished in brick, white brick.
I've seen it.
And most of the old schoolhouses are made into homes.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were bought by farmers and made a shed or something.
Mm-hmm.
They were moved.
Do you remember how many students you had at the Leighton Corners school?
Two.
Just two?
Just two. I was
Two
mad.
students?
Huh?
Two students?
Two. How many students?
How many students did you have?
Students. Well, not very many. You know, the Catholic school was just a mile from there. And Leighton Corners, mostly were Catholics. And the children went to at school. The priest there was Father Weinstein, and he came down to visit my schoolroom quite often. And he said, well, you would do more than this. You don't have enough work here. I'll send you some work to do. Well, I said, what will it be? Well, he said, we're getting a First Communion class ready. And one day he come down, and there was 17 little kids trailing after him. And well, he says, here you are. There's more work here. And, well, so.
What did you teach them?
Huh?
What did
I said, well, Father, you know, this is a public school, and I can't teach religion here. If the children want to come early, before school time, or if they stay after school, I'll be glad to have them.
Was it catechism that he wanted you to teach?
Yes. And so that was it. They do without recess and anything to get the time that I used for teaching them. I tell you, a boy, one of the big boys, was Tony Sutter,
Really?
that lived and died here in Chestnut.
Oh.
He was one of the big boys.
Uh-huh.
And he said his folks, they taught too much by the books. And if he could get some way, get the books, he could come to school. And, well, I said, you'll be interested, really. Yes, he said, I would like to get a little bit more book knowledge. Well, I said, I have my school books from New York saved. And, well, I said, you won't have to take a test on it, or you have to, when the exams come, you simply write them. And the same way, they count the same in New York as they do here. And so it would be perfectly safe for you to use my books. And he did.
That was good.
And I was glad that he made it that it was possible for him to get a little more education.
Mm-hmm.
Arithmetic especially. That is totally true.
Did all the kids bring their lunches
Oh,
to
yes,
school?
yes. There was two children. Their folks lived there at Leighton Corners. The one was the roadkeeper, and they had a girl and a boy come to school. Wanda, and what was the boy's name? And they brothers and sisters, maybe I had forgot. to the house where they live. They've been home for dinner.
Let's get back to, George. Now, when you got married,
Huh?
where was the first place that you and George lived?
We bought a place. It was an 80-acre farm, an estate. And, well, we put our money together, and George's father said if we could buy 40 acres, he would take care of the other 40 acres till we could, till we get 80 acres together again.
How long did you live there?
7 years.
And then you moved to
Detroit.
Detroit? How long were you in Detroit?
7 years. We went by sevens, it seems, but it just happened so.
And then back to Chestnut?
Huh?
And then back to Chestnut?
From Detroit we come back to Chestnut, and we've been here ever since.
Where did you move to Chestnut?
We bought what's now Showboat Park. That was 29 acres.
You owned the Showboat Park?
Yes. That was 29 acres. And the house that Don Raven still lives in was the house on that 29 acres.
How interesting.
And, well,
Then did you build the house that you lived in, right next door?
yes. We had this Josephine, and that Don Raymond's house was, well, it's too big for them too, but they still like it.
So then you built that house new that you lived in there.
Yes,
And the whole Showboat Park belonged to you?
yes.
My goodness.
We made a little farm of it with raised poultry and red raspberries.
I can't get over that. When did it become a park?
Well, after we owned it, the village needed something for recreation, for the boys especially, ball games. And so the people's cow pasture, there's been no place for ball games even. And, well, the village fathers talked it over and they decided that they could get that 29 acres, that would be ideal. Along the river there, it could be for parties and other things than just ball games. Well, so we liked it there. We didn't fancy the idea of moving away. So George said, well, I'll sell it to the village, but I want to retain 2 acres for the home. Well, that Don Raymond's place didn't take up no 2 acres. So anyway, we built Bill's place.
The new place. But you lived in where Don Raymond lived. You lived there originally.
Yeah. When we came from Detroit, we lived in place.
So would you mind telling me what you sold the land for to the village? Do you remember how much it was?
Oh, it was more than we paid for it. But I think it was around 3,000.
Isn't it something? So you've seen the park grow from
Yes.
just a piece of
From a
land.
little, it was Cantwell Park.
Cantwell.
Sure.
Right.
And they had a few animals, deer, and
A lot of pine trees.
a lot of places for picnics, and there was something doing all the time.
There were more trees there then, weren't there?
Huh?
There were more trees
Oh,
in the
yes,
park then, weren't there?
yes.
I remember reading in a book about it being a bridle path for horses. Is that true?
That's that?
They used to ride horses in there a lot.
Oh, it was a racetrack.
Oh,
It was considered one of the best racetracks in the state of Michigan. That was true. And the wild animals were still in cages there when we bought it.
did you buy it from Cantwell's, or did Cantwell's buy it
No.
from you?
The keepers bought it from Cantwell, and they couldn't make it go. Mrs. Keeper was your sister,
Oh, I see. And then you bought it from Kiefer.
and we bought it from Keeper. And, well, we got a bit of that wild animals, and George being originally a farm boy, he knew how to go at it, and it was an ideal little fruit farm, and the river there made it ideal for ducks and geese.
Oh, I bet it was beautiful.
And, well, they said there'd be a ball game going, and it was supper time for the ducks and geese. They'd come single file from the river up to the barn building, and the boys would laugh and draw attention to that parade. And I served ice cream and pop during the time of a ball game. And in the fall, it was hot dogs and instead of ice cream. Yeah. And that's where I made my Christmas money.
Selling hot dogs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Now, so did you continue living in Don Raymond's house then?
We lived, that was a house that was on the 29 acres.
Mm-hmm.
And there were barn buildings too. And, well, they all were on the 29 acres. And, yes, the house is still there, and Don Raymond still lives in it.
And it's beautiful.
And it's a nice place. They put a living room on the south side,
Mm-hmm.
and a large fireplace.
And where did you go after that? After you left Don Raymond's house? Or what is Don Raymond's house now?
Well, that's when we had to go to Peterhoe to take care of that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was in bad shape.
The farm that you lived in on the
farm,
Pete Road?
The house and the barn buildings and no fences. They had to have fences them days. Now they don't care for the fences with the large tractor tools. They take out the fences,
Mm-hmm.
make them fields larger.
This was after you sold the park to the village?
Yes.
Uh-huh. And how long did you live there?
Well, 4 years.
4 years.
And it took 4 years. He bought fence posts by the carload, and everything had to be rebuilt. And took 4 years.
And then you
And I
started...
worked in the house all that length of time. It's a 13-room house. And it was in bad shape.
And then you started to build downtown?
Yes, we had, George had a hired boy, And he stayed for us to help us with the chores and all that in the wintertime too. And, well, he worked at this house building just between times.
Mm-hmm.
And when it didn't take two men at the farm. And so finally it got done then.
It was nice that you could live right there by the park that you owned
Oh, it was
for so long.
it was lovely. In the backyard we had a fish pool, and we had a lot of flowers and rock garden and things that were really attractive at that time.
I remember a lot of tulips around your place.
Oh yes, I had 1,400 tulip bulbs one year when I transplanted them. We bought the original 62 tulip bulbs out to Grand Haven.
What happened to all the trees that were on the park all the pine trees and things? There were so many trees
Well,
there at one time.
This man keeper wasn't much of a farmer, or in fact, much of anything. He could tear down better than he could build up. And that's what happened to
He
us.
removed some of the trees.
He took them down and burned them up.
Hmm.
But he was that way with everything. And shortly after we were there, the old man Jackson lived on South Road Street there. And
The whittler, the man that could whittle so good? Never mind that.
well, he noticed a change in the farming condition there on the park. George was baling hay, and well, that was all new to that old man Jackson, and he says, well, George, you're a better farmer than the other fellow was. And he was interested in what was going on.
I understand that you were the first people that helped out at the pool when they built the pool.
Oh, yes. And we worked there 3 years. George was a boys and I was a girl.
Oh, man.
Uh-huh.
What do you think of the park today?
Oh, it's beautiful and it's ready for showboats. There's a lot of flower beds and, well, this you don't have to say, but they have a toilet, which they didn't have. And the people that would come to the park, next day, could we use your toilet, please? Oh, I'd take them in my house. There was no outdoor toilet. And so we were certainly glad when they were building something that were necessary.
I could understand that. Well, today is Dr. Buzzard's funeral,
Yes.
and he has a beautiful day for his funeral.
Well, I was so glad this morning when the sun came because we did have some bad weather.
Didn't we, though? You remember a lot about Dr. Buzzard, don't you, when he came to town and everything?
Yes. He was in Chestnut 46 years. And he did a lot of good work. It doesn't all pay with him.
Do you remember anything about Dr. Buzzard in the years past? Was he your family doctor?
Yes, our daughter Josephine was in her last year at school, and Roy Smith was druggist, and he came up and he said to me, have you any idea for Josephine when she finishes? And I said, no, she's helped out down at your office quite a lot, and seems quite interested in the drug business. And well, he said that I'm just looking for a girl, and if she would like, I think she would qualify for the job. So when she came from school, we talked it over, and yes, it was all right. And Dr. Buzzard lived in the rooms upstairs at that time, and
This is what building?
in the building where the Roy Smith had his
Oh, yes.
drugstore.
Mhm.
And so we really got well acquainted with the doctor through Josephine, filling prescriptions for him, and oftentimes at night someone that needed medicine, and well, the doctor would send them up to Josephine. Well, we wouldn't have her go down there to the drugstore in the night, so George get the car out, and he'd go down with her and sit there until she was ready to come home.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Buzzard remembers all those things. One time he wouldn't take any pay of me, and well, I said, I expect to pay you like anybody else. And well, he said, I haven't forgotten the kindness Josephine showed to when she was the druggist downstairs and I lived up above.
Yeah, he was a sweet person.
That's all I know about it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he certainly gave a lot of service to his town.
Oh, yes. Well, now we have to mention the health center, too.
Mm-hmm. What do you know? What can you tell us about the health center?
Well, the health center is quite an important place
Sure.
for people that before they get to a doctor,
Uh-huh.
they find out in the health center if it's really important for them to see a doctor. And not only the townspeople, but she does a lot for the schools, and lets them know when they need glasses. And well, and sometimes there'll be some ailment creeping up on them that their folks don't really realize.
Mhm.
Well, this health office is a good place to take them for a checkup once in a while.
Mhm.
And they discover things that a doctor should treat.
Also, okay. What do you remember about the early church, Our
Well,
Lady?
the very first church, I understand, was wrecked by a windstorm.
Our Lady?
Mm. And it had quite a time getting enough financial help to rebuild it, but finally made a go of it. And now we have a number of buildings in connection with church.
Where was this located in the same place the present church is located?
No, the old church building was put in about the same place.
Right where it is now?
Mm.
Did they have a convent then?
Hmm?
Did they have a convent then?
No,
Just the church?
no, they didn't have a school or
Do you remember when that was?
I don't remember the date. But Father Stewart was a priest here then, and he was really interested in getting a school started too.
Oh,
And he also had St. Charles and Albany and Oakley.
oh,
And he drove horses. There was no cars yet.
horse and buggy.
Then days, this horse and buggy days.
Now they're back to that again, aren't they? Taking care of Oakley and
So now, they have grown to so much work that they really can use outside help.
and then taking care of Oakley too makes it all the more work, doesn't it?
Yes. It's,
What did the church? How big was it? Was it the one that blew away, or
well, it was just an ordinary small building. And
wooden structure?
now they have 800 families.
Yes.
That's,
Do you remember how many families there were then?
no, at that time, why, there was more than 25, 30 families.
Really?
When the old church building was.
It must have been real homey then.
Well,
Did they have organ music? Who played?
This organist here has been here a long time. I don't know if she played any in the old church building or not.
Do you remember when they built the church that they call the old church now, that we use for the parish hall?
I think there's a date on the building, but
It's kind of hard to remember something like that.
I don't remember those.
How many years was Father Studer here?
Well, he stayed here even when Father Grintinger was here.
Was he the original priest here?
He was living. Father Studer was living where Art Wirtz, that was the original home, and he said mass in there some of the times.
Oh,
And but it wasn't anywhere near the size that it is now. But that was the original home.
do you remember how many years he was the priest here?
No,
10 years, 20 years?
oh, it must have been 20 years at least.
Was Father Bossler ever here?
Huh?
Was he a priest?
Father Mathilda, yes.
Was he after Father Studer?
He was a priest in Oakley.
Was he pastor at Our Lady too?
I don't think he ever was pastor.
I guess he was at St. Michael's too then, wasn't he?
Oh, yes. A good helper, wherever he needed.
Then did Father Grinzinger come after Father Studer?
Yes,
He was here a long time, wasn't he?
yes. And he did very well. The people paid attention to what he said and did.
He meant what he said too, didn't he?
Yes.
Yes, he would just have
But
a fit.
he wasn't unreasonable. He understood the people very well.
He would just have a fit about some of the things that go on nowadays, wouldn't he?
Well, let's see. Well, Father Bauer and Father Shea did quite a lot,
Oh, they were wonderful.
and
They were a good team.
Do you remember how many churches there were in Chesaning when you first came here, when you were around 20 years old? Or
well, no. After they got organized, there was about 7.
how many are there now, I wonder?
I don't know, but there's
That was quite a few for a small community.
yes, that was. Well, and they had services right in the homes.
Oh,
They didn't have church buildings.
oh,
No.
so they didn't have the buildings, but
No,
they had the
uh-uh.
different denominations.
Yes.
Do you remember Father Schultz?
Schultz?
Father Schultz, Harold Schultz's brother, that was at Our Lady? He was
Oh,
the pastor at Our Lady?
yes. Not very much so.
Not very long.
Uh-uh.
That was before Father Grinzinger came, wasn't it?
Yes.
Before Father Grinzinger. Well, going back a little bit now, you had, how many children did you have?
In our oldest house,
Your own. Your own.
none.
Oh. Did you have a daughter?
Josephine was an adopted baby.
Oh, you adopted her. How nice.
Mhm.
You didn't have any other children.
No.
Did she marry?
Yes, Elmer Fox,
Fox. And she had
a daughter.
that was your only granddaughter then.
Yes.
What was her name?
Mary Ann.
Mary Ann.
And she married Richard Wooten, W-O-K-E-N.
Did they live in Chestnut?
No, they lived in Flint. They lived in Flint all their married life.
All their married life.
And he's a supervisor of schools in Flint. And Mary Ann is working too all the time since she went right from college to this job, and Buick hired her right from college,
And she's worked there ever since.
and just lived there ever since and worked at.
We're skipping around a little bit here, but we don't mind, do we? Where did you shop when you first set up housekeeping for groceries?
Oh, it was Commons, pretty much.
Were there, what other stores were there in town at that time? That was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Well, yes. That was, seems longer than they're old.
Were there other stores in town then, grocery stores, or was that the only grocery
That was only one of the important at that time. There was some other name that tried it in that corner there, but it didn't, they didn't make a go of it.
Originally, wasn't it the Cantwell store?
Oh, yes, Cantwell's was, Tiffany was most all Cantwell.
Mm-hmm. They practically owned the whole town, didn't they?
Yeah.
How was the grocery store then? It wasn't anything like the supermarkets of today, was it?
Oh, no. There weren't any supermarkets.
No. You walked up to the counter and told them what you wanted?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What Commons was that?
How? That was Larry and Kim.
Oh, yeah. They owned it for a long time, didn't they?
Yeah. Then Joe was, he grew up and he took
over then.
he took Jim's place.
Yeah.
And
Was there a meat market? What other stores were in town at that time? Years ago, when you first came to Chesapeake.
well,
I wonder if they had a meat market. Yeah.
oh yes, that's why I say Farmer Pete's, we have to get them in there.
Was it Pete's meat market downtown?
Pete's yes, Pete's Meat Market.
How about Raymond's?
Raymond's was a clothing store for a long time too. Then these boys growing all are Raymond's, but Ed Raymond was
Started it, didn't he?
started it.
My grandmother told me once that he used to go around selling needles and things on the bicycle,
Yes,
Mr. Raymond.
yeah.
They've come a long way since then, haven't they?
Well,
Was there a dress shop in town?
no,
You had where did you get your clothes, your dresses and things?
well, we usually went to Owasso for coats and things like that were worthwhile.
How did you get there?
Well,
Horse and buggy?
horse and buggy until,
That must have taken quite a while to get there by horse and buggy.
oh yes,
But they had the coats and things like that. And I suppose the rest of the things you sewed.
you didn't buy much ready-made.
Uh-huh.
Coats, of course, and things like that you had to buy, but most of the dresses were homemade. Somebody would be called a dressmaker, and she'd go around and stay in the home a couple of days and do sewing. My wedding dress and going away dress, she always had 2 dresses made when you was getting married. That was albatross, nice material. Bought that in a Christian store, and also a changeable silk, tan and gold. That was pretty. That was my going away dress, and those 2 dresses were made. They were almond girls that came to the house.
Almond.
They're like almond.
I suppose most women were pretty good at sewing in those days, too.
Oh yes,
Did you sew?
it had to be.
Did you sew?
Oh yes, my mother was a good. She pieced a lot of quilts those days.
Everybody made quilts, didn't they?
Yes.
You hardly have time to make quilts nowadays.
Well,
Some do.
no, and they don't want to make
No.
things
There's
like
other
they
things
used
to do now, aren't
No.
there?
They don't take time to do things like they used to. But they would have coating bees they'd piece quilts, and then they usually had to have two to do when they'd have a quilting party. And in the home, there was 4 hooks came from the ceiling down that the quilt frame could draw up and have a dancing party in the evening.
Oh, how fun. That sounds like fun. Did you belong to the quilting club on the Pete Road?
Yes,
Did you?
yes.
Do you remember who belonged to that?
Oh, no, the neighborhood women.
Were you pretty well acquainted with the neighbors that you had on the Pete Road?
Yes, at the time.
How many neighbors did you have at that time?
Well, Butcher's was across the street, and Henry Wireman was right side of us. And down by the railroad track was it White? I can't think that name now.
That's all right.
They were,
Do you remember Les's folks?
hmm?
Do you remember Les's folks?
Oh yes, we knew them. As you know, anybody now, we knew them all the time.
Potters have lived out there a long time too, haven't they?
Who?
Ed Potter?
Oh, but they didn't live there then.
They didn't.
No, they lived, they really had hard going when they were first married. And they lived downtown, a ways down the river road, and they had the little farm. They had strawberries and well,
They're a really nice couple.
Ethel Potter.
Yes, we stop and visit with them in the summertime a lot.
She isn't very good.
No, she's not feeling too well.
No. Do you know Helen Brigham?
No,
Didn't you know the Brigham family?
no.
Mrs. Brigham was Mrs. Blakely's sister.
Oh, uh-huh.
She was a Smith-doll.
No, I just remember different names that Les's mother had mentioned to me.
Well, the Smith-doll family originally lived, I don't know, maybe what's left of them are in Owasso now. But this Helen Brigham, she married a man by the name of Tomlinson. And, well, it seems he didn't live too very long. And,
Was there a beauty shop in town in the early days that you remember?
no.
No beauty shop? When was the first beauty shop?
Oh,
Do you recall?
I don't know. For hats, we usually went to Owasso.
There must have been a barber shop, though.
Yes, there was, yes, I don't think that old fella has a barber shop anymore.
Andy Sullen?
So, does he? Oh, he must be quite old.
He's elderly.
Huh?
Did you ever get a permanent in those days?
I had, yes,
When did you get your first permanent?
I went to Saginaw for the first permanent,
Oh,
and paid $25 for it.
oh boy.
And,
That's about what they are today.
and then, well, I didn't appreciate it much. And I was going to let my hair grow long. At that time, we went to visit one of George's cousins in Grand Rapids. And she had just came home from the beauty parlor. they was giving permits for, I think, $3.95. And
That's a big difference.
well, well, that was a few years between the $25 one. But George said, well, why don't you try it? Maybe I like this one better. Well, so I did.
Was it better?
At the $3.95. No, I didn't like it any better. I liked the price better.
Are those the
That
only
didn't
two?
amount to the whole thing. And so then I really did let it go on.
Are those the only two permanents that you ever got?
Yes. I used to, if I wanted to be dolled up real nice, go to a wedding or something like that, I'd go to the beauty parlor and have my hair combed.
Where did you go to the beauty parlor?
She was a lady that had a beauty parlor in her own home.
Was that years ago?
Yes. That was,
What was the name of it? Do you remember?
well,
That's okay. You don't have to remember if you don't want to, if you can't remember.
no.
But there was a beauty shop that in town somewhere, in someone's home.
In someone's home, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Do you remember the Tigert family?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was one, Ernest Tigert. He was married to Leah Shepard. And this lady that had the beauty parlor in her room was a good friend of Leah Tigert.
Mm-hmm. How about a sheriff? Did they have a sheriff when you first came to Chesaning?
I guess so.
Do you remember him at all?
Yes. When we lived up on Mathilda Road, this is a story by itself. We had a board fence between us and White's. White was the name next to us by the railroad track. And we had a board fence between there. And, well, we'd have the cows back in the woods. And across the railroad track up there was a family of Hoovers. And they were kind of light-fingered around the neighborhood. And, well, they lived back of our woods. And